I want to introduce you all to my Canadian sisters. This is Violet, and this is this is Kerrin, and they want to.
Hello.
So for those of you that don't know, Kerrin is the guardian of the Worldwide Women's Circle, and she is an amazing stand and support for the programs that I run. She wants to bring some of her wisdom and magic through Council 7, which is a project that she's working on with Violet. And I just just look at these women. It's good juju all around. But today I wanted them to just share a little bit about, I think we're going to talk about the power of the North and Buffalo medicine. And so why don't you go ahead and take it away, ladies? I'm just going to stop talking and step back, and let's hear some of your wisdom.
I love you, LeahRose.
I love you too.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This is awesome. Basically, we're going to talk about some of the things that are going to happen in Council 7. And I wanted to actually share, Violet and I wanted to share kind of like a sample, a teaser. You came here to tease you today.
Ooh, now you're speaking my language.
Yeah, there we go, right? So I want to introduce you to Buffalo. This is my sacred buffalo.
Holy
man.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
This is called Pretty Boy. This is Pretty Boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's a beast, and he's a whole story and a half in himself. So yeah. So that's not art.
That's real.
That is a sacred item. It's been used in ceremony. So that's kind of a little piece of where we can start with the buffalo. So the buffalo in my teachings come from the north. The buffalo is in the north direction. So when you're calling in directions, we call in the direction of spirits from the directions, and part of those spirits are the animals that come, the animals that basically live in those directions. And that's why we use them. So it's actually all framed around what your specific location is. So if I'm way down south, so from my location here in Canada, the eagle, for example, comes from the south. But if I'm like way down south, then the eagle would be possibly in the north. Depends on how far, or it could be the east. Depends how far down I am, right? So it's right. The directions are based on what is your location now, and everything goes out from there. Council 7 is like a seriously deep dive into taking ownership of the 7 directions for yourself. You actually walk away pretty much having them impregnated into yourself so deeply that they become yours. Not something that's borrowed or something that you just heard about, right? You're gonna experience it, right? So let's just talk about the north and the buffalo. Let's just dive in, yeah? Okay. So from the north, the buffalo comes from the north. My teachings, most of the things that I learned come from the Blackfoot people, which live in southern Alberta, northern Montana, kind of that area. And so in these teachings, they're very much plains people. And the buffalo it's like life. Without the buffalo, there's no life. And one of the most basic teachings about the buffalo is the buffalo is a strong representation of prosperity. When the Blackfoot people talk about prosperity, They're talking about, of course, the physical things, right? So if you have a buffalo robe, you're rich because you can stay warm. If you've gone out and you've killed a buffalo, you're rich because not only are you going to have a buffalo hide, or maybe, something that you can start building your teepee cover with. You've got all of that meat. There's tools that are made from the bones, the skulls. We've got ceremonial items like the skull is used in sweat lodges. The sinew, the back strap. So there's a tendon that runs down the back, or the tendons that run up the leg. That's sinew. That's what they used to sew with, right? That's real sinew, not the man-made stuff, right? So from one buffalo, so much can be created, right? And so that's why it's the symbol of prosperity. So it's not only the physical things that it brings, but it's also the enjoyment of those things, right? Being able to enjoy those things, right? There's got to be community involved when you take down a buffalo. It's a lot of work to skin a buffalo and to cut it up into meat and to dry it and to be able to use all those items that it provides us, right? So that's kind of the first, one of the first premises of buffalo. The next one is kind of what's that thing? Foreshadowing. I kind of did the foreshadowing thing there a little bit, right? Community.
Right.
Buffalo are herd animals. And community it's how they survive. It's how they live, right? They travel in a herd. They use the energies of the herd to protect each other. So there's another one, but is protection, right? Protection of the things that you love and care about, right? I was to share a little bit of a story. I had, some of you might have seen pictures of my dog Thumper, a little black and white border collie. She's hanging out with those spirit buffaloes now, I'm sure, herding them around. We went to this park where they had wild buffalo, and you could drive into this park. So we drove in, came over this. I didn't see any buffalo, We were just driving around in the truck. Thought, I don't see anybody, so let's let Thumper out. She needs to go for a run. So she jumps out. We come up over this rise. And then just as we come over the rise, there's Thumper. I don't know if you've ever seen like the border collie do the hunch thing when they're getting ready to herd, right? And they're like got the eyeball thing going on. It's like she was going to round up those buffalo. Just as we, but you don't really round up buffalo. That's just not how they work, right? They're not like cows. It's just not like
right.
cows.
They're huge. They're massive.
They are massive, right? We come over the rise and she's like starting to head toward these buffalo, right? And they're just, I can see them, they're off just kind of grazing around, and then in an instant, they all turned and they faced us, and they like went from this big spread out group to this compressed thing, and they were just like facing us. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, Thumper, get in the truck. Right? But to see and experience that in person, the force and how that community works, pulls together, all the little ones and old ones in the middle. And all the big fierce ones were out front and at the sides. It was amazing. It was just amazing to see how fast those massive creatures moved. Right? It was very cool. So, you got company.
I know. What's going on over there?
So community, right, is like pulling together, supporting and protecting each other. Do you want to jump in on any of this anywhere, Violet?
Well, sure, a little bit.
Yeah.
If you want, I'm just going to show a picture of a live buffalo here. I'm just going to bring this up because it's impressive, right? Now you get a sense of it. This happens to be a female buffalo, this one.
Is there horns on that buffalo?
She's got horns. The female horns are smaller. They're narrower. And the male horns are like big.
You can't see it well on this one, but she's got full teats. She must have a baby because she has full teats. She's full of milk.
Oh,
so anyways, that's a buffalo. To give you a sense of why you wouldn't want to mess with a herd of them. It's a border collie.
No.
Yeah. And I guess part of this is sort of the aspect I'm bringing in is kind of the sense of, all right, so what is it physically that we can draw in and learn from buffalo? And part of what's really obvious to me with buffalo is just how solid they are, how connected to the ground. And these animals are not moving unless they feel like moving. And there's, so something we're likely to do, something I love doing with people is having them get a sense of meeting their own or discovering their own inner buffalo. And the difference is sort of, so being able to just notice, you know, when you're sitting, most people will be sitting watching this right now, just getting a sense of how do you sit and how do you hold yourself up and what muscles are busy and how does this feel, right? And then just for a moment, imagine that you're a buffalo. And you're out in the prairies and you're just kind of grazing and just hanging out in the sun, right? You're kind of looking around at the other buffalo and just get a sense, even with just imagining that. LeahRose, you took a huge breath and you did something, right? Like something.
Yeah, I got really heavy. I imagine, like, I feel like I'm large.
Substantial.
Yeah. Connected to the ground.
Yeah, I got lower. I was up here and I like lowered my seat.
And one of the things we'll be playing with is when you take this on in this way, when you experience yourself like that, heavier, more substantial or whatever, and you sort of go shoulder to shoulder with someone else, because as Kerrin said, they're herd animals. They do a lot with body language. They do a lot with just leaning into each other or moving a little this way, that way, right? When you're like this and you lean against somebody, what does that feel like compared to when you're in your normal place and you lean against somebody? Or when you imagine yourself, you know, if you've been a buffalo who's been to the gym, right? And you've got all your muscles and you're gonna be muscly buffalo. And then you try to push against somebody and just noticing what's the difference in the experience of your own strength and your own capacity and your own ease when you do those different things. Is it different and does it surprise you?
So the other part of that, to bring that full circle around, so we talk about, you know, the headspace, the knowledge that the buffalo has brought through the people to us, right? And now we're offering it here again to you. And so there's the brain knowledge, right? And then Violet's talking about the physical knowledge. How do we get that knowledge into our physical bodies, right? But then we bring it back up into the spiritual knowledge, right? And that spiritual knowledge, when we ground it into that space, you got the mental, the physical, the spiritual, and of course you're going to feel the emotional once you've got all of those others engaged. The emotions are going to start to shift around too, right? So when you pull all these things together, right, in the energetic sense, when you try this on, you do become the buffalo. Energetically, it's real. This is not like just pretend, imaginary, woo-woo stuff, right? You'll get to feel the solidity of being like that, even though you're an animated, live, breathing creature. You're a creature that just isn't going to get pushed around. It's just not going to happen, right? There's a solidity to your stance, to your being, to your spirit, to your strength.
To your presence.
To your presence, yes, that.
Oh, totally. And then when you leave, there's the opportunity to then embody, say, the buffalo in life. Like, because there's the classroom, right? And then there's, you leave, and then there's the practice. So
Well,
like,
that's what we love about the idea of taking it in and imagining what it might be like in the world, because then you can take it with you, and then you get to explore and experiment and see what's it like. Oh, I'm in a situation. Is it different when I see that when I walk into a room and I do the buffalo thing than if I walk into the room and I'm feeling something different, right? So you can play with it. It's fun to do in meetings. It's fun to do on the street when you're standing on the street corner. It's fun to do in different places, and you can start to play with it. Because that's the playfulness of this is really key, right? It's how you experiment and the curiosity and the fun of it to sort of bring it and make it alive for yourself. Yeah.
All right, here he comes. Nice big boy.
oh man.
Yeah.
I hope it's not making a real racket.
No, it's not.
That's
I'll back up.
amazing.
I gotta back up. There he is.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. And so for those of you watching, Pretty Boy is sits on the sweat lodge, right? He's the guardian of
Sits
your
in
sweat
front.
lodge.
In the front
Mm-hmm.
of the sweat lodge. Yeah. So the sweat lodge is actually a buffalo. So the skull sits out front, and then the lodge itself is the buffalo. It is buffalo.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So you walk in and then you're sitting in the buffalo.
Yeah.
Oh. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some serious medicine, right? Like this is some serious stuff.
Yes.
There's some power in these things, right?
Yeah.
You tell it. You're good at this.
Okay. Violet calls me up one day. This is how we call on Zoom. We called each other on Zoom because we're far away from each other. So she calls me up and she says, we should do something together. And I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, cool. So my way is to plant a seed, right? So right then and there, I took the knot of a sweetgrass and I got a little cup and I put it in there. And then the seed is planted. We're going to do something. A couple of nights later, I don't know if it was 1 or 2 nights later, the dream came and I got the download, and Council 7 is the result.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
They gave me the directions. They said, this is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to play with. You're going to take it on the road. And it's going to be awesome. We're going to teach through the 7 directions. We're going to teach, each direction is going to have an animal.
Can I ask a quick question? I'm curious about the 7 directions because I actually go by 8 directions. So will you share about this? I'm like really curious. What are the 7 directions?
Okay. 7 directions: west, north, east, south, above, below, and within.
Okay. I know those directions. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and this is especially awesome for anyone that's doing any kind of ceremony where you want to call in directions, where you want to set a container. Like this is powerful for doing that, right? And I know a lot of people are already using a calling similar to calling in the 7 directions, right? Mm-hmm. Something that they've learned or something that they've picked up or something that they dreamed, right? This is going to take those, if you're already using a calling, this is going to take that calling and send it to an entirely different depth of power that you're calling in. It gives you a completely, like it is such a deep container that you call in after you've gone through an experience like this, after you've taken in the teachings that we're offering at Council 7.
So I'm hearing that it's both. It's the teaching and it's also the memory, like it's getting also, it. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's also welcoming yourself, coming home into your own self. So we talk about this as welcome home. Because for a lot of people, being in your own body is not a comfortable place. And through the animals and through this experience, it's just very practical connection in ways that allow you to connect to the earth, you to very simply and clearly connect to the people in the room or to the animals in your life. This offers a way to be present, to be home in your own self, in a way that might feel different and might feel kind of like a relief, kind of I'm home and I can be here and it's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's important to feel at home. It's important to
just
feel landed.
Yeah.
It's vital.
Yeah.
It's vital.
And especially the spiritual stuff, like what I love about this work and what I love about how Kerrin works is really, and what I love about how it seems to feel for me is that it really does connect in and take the spiritual and the teachings and all that and bring it right into ourselves and into how we engage in our world, how we act, how we engage in our life and make our living, like the buffalo, make our life richer, make our experience richer, make our being a human in a body on this earth a much more interesting experience, right?
Yeah, I hope.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but I kind of want to ask Kerrin to call in the directions for us.
All right. But what are we calling them in for?
That's a good question.
Because you don't just call them in randomly.
I think called them in to begin Council 7.
Reopening the doors.
Oh, damn.
Shivers.
See why I love working with these women? God damn, right?
All right.
All right. Okay.
Woo. Shivers.
All right. Okay, ladies. Ladies, join me. Join me as I call in the 7 directions and open the gates to Council 7.
Yeah, I hope.
Yeah.
And all of you watching too, definitely get in your bums, get in your feet, take a deep breath.
And let yourselves see what I'm calling. Let yourselves be surrounded by what I'm calling in, right? And just let yourself be carried and supported and guided and protected. And then you can just take this with you when we're done here tonight. Maybe it will lead you to Council 7, but if not, it will lead you somewhere good in your world.
I hope.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Ayo stavatapio. Ayo napi natus. Twanakok mistaxi tapiaki. Abosh kanakat. Source of life. Creator. This is Mountain Woman and White Cloud. And we're calling on you to help us as we open the gates for Council 7. Help us to do this in the best way possible, in a way that serves people in the most divine, delicious, fun, educational way, in a way that is actually usable in their real lives, in their everyday lives. Help us as we open the gates to Council 7. I'm calling the spirits of the West. The place of those beautiful, powerful mountains, all those waterfalls, the place of the bear. We invite you to bring your good medicine, to help us, to guide us, to direct us, to teach us to not be afraid to go deep. We call on you to bring your medicine as we open the gates to Council 7. We thank you for joining us. And we call on the spirits of the north and that buffalo, that sacred buffalo, pretty boy here who sits beside me. And those good, powerful teachings of the buffalo. This is the place of the snow caps, the ice caps, those ones that keeps our temperature regulated, the place where the majority of our water comes from on this side of the earth. Without water, there is no life. Without the buffalo, there is no life in the traditional way. We invite you to come and help us as we open the gates of Council 7. And we thank you. We thank you for joining us. And we thank you especially for being such a big part of tonight's sharing. Thank you for joining us and being with us. And we call on the spirits of the East, that place of the new day where we greet Natusi, Creator, every morning as Creator crests over the horizon. We greet that day like it's a fresh start. This is the teachings of the East, a fresh start. And we're calling the Deer Nation there too. They teach us about unconditional love, about gentleness, but also about being magnificent in our pride, in our stance, in our strength, and what we represent, what we stand for. We invite you to come help us as we open the gates of Council 7. Please bring your medicine, your teachings, and your wisdom, especially that gentleness, as we open these gates to Council 7. We welcome you and we thank you for joining us. And we call on the spirits of the South. This is the place of the eagle. This is the place of ceremony and the elders. This is where the elders sit. We invite you from the deepest places of our hearts, and we offer our gratitude, our deepest gratitude, because without you, we couldn't share these teachings. These teachings would not be able to go forward. We thank you for joining us. All the teachers that have crossed my path, that have crossed Violet's path, that have crossed LeahRose's path, that have crossed the path of anyone connected to this recording, or anyone who may cross the path of the Worldwide Women's Circle, anyone who touches this in any way. We call on those elders, and we are so grateful to you. Thank you for joining us and for doing all that you did to bring this wisdom forward. We welcome you into our circle as we open Council 7. We call on those spirits from the above place, all the ones that fly, all the ones that are of the ethers, the ones that are invisible, the ones we feel, the ancestors, those ones that we are related to. We call on you and ask you to be with us and join in us as we open the gates to Council 7. Help us to connect to our heritage and to the wisdom that's brought down through generations, through our own bloodlines, or through our own ties that have been created through ceremony. We call on you and we ask you to join us. Thank you for joining us as we open the gates to Council 7. Hmm. Hmm. And as we look below us, to start to be the source of life, which is our earth, Mother Earth, she is the one that provides every single thing physical, down to our bodies, down to our breath. She provides it. She is our ultimate provider. We ask her if she will join us and support us and hold us as we open these gates to Council 7. These are her directions. They are referenced from her core. Thank you, Source of Life, Mother Earth, all those places down below, the ones that swim in the deep waters. We call on you and we welcome you into our circle as we open up the gates to Council 7. And now I ask each of you to look deep into your heart, to that place where there is your spark, your personal spark of the source of life and of Natusi, creator. That spark lives within you. It lives in your heart. That spark is your spirit, your soul. Touch that part of you and bring her to this opening of the gates of Council 7. Whatever that's going to mean for you, open that place in yourself. Welcome all these aspects deep into your heart, into your spirit, into their full physical presence, into a place where you can feel it and know it and carry it with you. And I ask you to connect to just one person from this place of openness. Touch another from this place. And by that I mean out in the real world. Touch one other at least. You'll probably touch more because it's yummy. Take a deep breath into that. And with that, the gates to Council 7 are open. Ow! Next,
Next up,